If you're looking for the ultimate form of passive income, in my opinion, there's no better option out there than being a dividend investor. Now, I know I'm pretty biased since my YouTube channel revolves around dividend investing, but if you search for passive income ideas on Google, what you'll find are lists of different ways of making money that don't actually become passive until after you've already put in hours and hours of effort into creating something. For example, if we look at this article on Bankrate, some suggestions on this list include writing a book, creating a smartphone app, being a photographer and selling your photos, or even owning rental property. And while these are good ways of earning money, none of these things are actually passive, or at least right away. From what I could find, the average first-time book author will spend anywhere from 6 to 12 months writing a book. Even after writing it and publishing it, you still have to spend more energy promoting and marketing it unless you happen to have a large fan base already. Or with creating a smartphone app, this is something that also takes months and months of hard work, and you have to hope that people will not only want to use your app, but are also going to be willing to pay for it. Even with owning rental properties, which is a good form of passive income, requires a lot of time and effort to get started. You have to familiarize yourself with the real estate sector, research the real estate markets to find a property, secure a loan and decide what you'll do in terms of a down payment, perform ongoing maintenance with the property, or hire a property manager to do it for you, which will cut into your profits, and so on. Like I said, they are a great way of earning passive income, but it has a higher barrier to entry. Dividend investing, on the other hand, is unlike everything else on these passive income lists for two reasons. First of all, it has the lowest barrier to entry in terms of earning passive income. You don't have to buy any fancy equipment or anything like that. All you have to do is create a brokerage account, deposit funds into it, and right away you can start earning income. Secondly, passive income through dividend investing is significantly less risky and it's less likely to leave you high and dry, which I'll explain what I mean since I can't think of the right phrase. If you want to earn income by being a photographer and trying to sell your photos, you could spend time traveling to places in order to take really great photographs and then spend time editing and uploading them, but then in turn have nobody want your photos. You basically spent hours and hours of your time and got no monetary reward for it. Now, if you're an artist and that kind of stuff is your passion, I definitely don't want to discourage anyone. But with dividend investing, even if you put your money into a very basic dividend growth ETF like ticker symbol SCHD, if you're willing to hold on to your investment, it's always increased in value as time progresses. Even if you bought $10,000 worth of shares of this fund on February 10th, 2020, just days before the massive COVID stock market plunge, and you chose to hold on to your investment, today you'd be looking at a 48.83% profit. So in today's video, I wanted to provide a step-by-step guide on how someone who might be interested in dividend investing can get started or maybe fine-tune their portfolio. I've tried to condense as much information as I can so that this video won't go on forever, which is what I like to do always since I just don't have the time to sit down and watch a 50-minute long YouTube video. And I'm assuming I'm probably not the only person here who feels that way. But if you guys would like a more detailed guide, then feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll consider doing that in the future for you all. So with that being said, let's get into it. I want to kick off this guide by introducing some key terms, starting by explaining what exactly a dividend is if you're not too familiar with the concept. A dividend is a payout of a portion of a company's profit to people who own their stock, aka shareholders. How it works is a company may or may not choose to give their shareholders a small portion of their revenue as a reward to people who own their stock. It's important to know that not all companies pay dividends. Some newer companies like Tesla, for example, don't pay their shareholders dividends, but what they'll do instead is choose to take all of their profits and reinvest it back into growing the business. Dividend payments are deposited to shareholders inside of their brokerage accounts, which is a type of account that's used to buy and sell stocks. Investors can either choose to receive the dividends as a cash payment, or you can choose to take your dividend money and reinvest it back into the same stock and buy more shares of it. Most dividend stocks pay shareholders on a quarterly basis, which is once every 3 months, but some companies may pay monthly, or even more rarely, semi-annually or annually, depending on the business. If you want to know if a specific stock pays dividends, you can go to a financial website like finance.yahoo.com and type either the company name or the ticker symbol at the top. Once you do that, look for the dividend yield field. If there's a percentage here, this means the stock has paid a dividend within the last year. Dividend yield is a ratio of how much you're getting for each dollar invested in a stock. It's also important to know that generally, the higher the dividend yield, the higher the risk that comes with it. When a company is experiencing difficult times, they may choose to reduce or completely eliminate their dividends, so an ongoing dividend is not a guarantee. But many companies have decades and decades of paying dividends. So now that we know what exactly a dividend is, the first step to getting started as a dividend investor is to commit to it as soon as you can, because the younger you are means the more you'll benefit from your money growing and compounding. There's a really popular phenomenon within dividend investing known as the dividend snowball, which refers to the compounding effect of reinvesting dividends into the same investment to increase your future dividend payments. We'll take a quick look at an example using Realty Income, which is a company that's paid monthly dividends to shareholders for many decades now. Imagine you invested $10,000 into this stock 25 years ago and you chose to reinvest all of your dividends every single month. You would now have $271,070.83 worth of Realty Income stock. Back in January of 1997, Realty Income was paying shareholders about 15 cents per share per month in dividends. So a $10,000 investment back in 1997 would have gotten you 864 shares and it would have paid you about $129 a month in dividends. But because over the last 25 years you chose to reinvest all of your dividends into buying more shares, today you would now have 3,785 shares of Realty Income. And since it now pays about 24 cents per share because they've continued to grow it, instead of making $129 a month, you'd now be receiving $908.40 a month. And that's just assuming that you invested $10,000 into this stock just one time and you never bought any more shares with the exception of using the money you received in dividends to buy more shares. So knowing this, you can understand why it's really important to get started in dividend investing as early as you possibly can. Even if you don't have $10,000, if you get started early, you can still really set yourself up for a lot of financial success later in life. It's important to stay disciplined and to not get tempted to withdraw your money unless you absolutely need to. If you want more information on how the dividend snowball works, you can do a Google search, but this is how it basically works in a nutshell. Try to commit as early in life as you possibly can to being a dividend investor. Once you're ready to get started, the second step is to set up a brokerage account. One question I get all the time is what brokerage platform would I recommend using? You basically have two options. You can use one of the more traditional companies that have been around for a while, like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or TD Ameritrade, or you can use one of the newer platforms like Robinhood, Webull, or Moomoo, just to name a couple. Personally, while I think both are good options, I like to use the more traditional platforms because they just have better customer service from my experience in case I ever need it. My favorite is Fidelity, but I've also heard a lot of good things about TD Ameritrade too. Another thing that I've read is that sometimes these newer platforms will have restrictions on what types of investments you can buy. So for example, I've heard that some of these newer platforms won't allow you to trade certain types of holdings if the platform views them as being too risky. Covered call funds are one of these kinds of investments, and so are exchange-traded notes, just to name a couple. And while I understand these platforms want to protect less sophisticated investors, I also believe that they should give people the freedom to invest in whatever they want. When you're in the process of setting up an account, you're going to be given two choices. You can either set up a retirement account or a non-retirement account. And there's actually two types of retirement accounts. One is called a traditional IRA and the other is called a Roth IRA. Discussing the difference between a traditional and a Roth IRA would be enough content for a video in and of itself, so I'd recommend doing a Google search for Roth versus traditional IRA, and you'll find some good articles that talk about the pros and cons of each. I'd actually recommend setting up both a non-retirement and a retirement account, and I personally have a non-retirement and a Roth IRA. But which account you'll do the majority of your investing in will all depend on your goals and your preferences, because both retirement and non-retirement accounts have their own benefits. So for example, in a non-retirement brokerage account, you have the freedom to put in as much money as you want, you can withdraw as much money as you want, and you can buy and sell stocks as you please. But with a retirement account, there's a limit as to how much money you can put into one each year. As of the making of this video, you can only put up to $6,000 a year into it, or $7,000 if you happen to be over the age of 50. Retirement accounts also don't allow you to withdraw your investment returns until you're age 59 and a half. But on the plus side, when you invest in a retirement account, you'll pay a lot less in taxes. So for example, in a Roth IRA, you'll never have to pay taxes on your dividend income. You also won't have to worry about capital gains taxes either. This can obviously save you a ton of money if you're able to build up a large enough position in a retirement account. So to summarize, this is what I'd recommend. If you're the kind of person who hates paying taxes and you don't think you'll want to try to live off of your investments before age 59 and a half, I'd recommend doing the majority of your investing inside of a retirement account. Now, if you're trying to retire early and plan to invest more than $6,000 a year and you're fine with paying more in taxes, then go with a non-retirement account. If you live outside the United States, you'll obviously have to look up to see what kind of brokerage accounts you have in your country. Some countries might allow you to invest more in some kind of retirement accounts, but you'll need to do more investigating depending on which country you live in. Once you've created a brokerage account, you'll need to add money to it by connecting your bank account and transferring money into it. And then step 3 is to decide which type of dividend strategy you want to pursue. And you really have two options, which is a dividend growth strategy or an income strategy, or a lot of people will use a mixture of both. Dividend growth investing is when someone invests in stocks and ETFs that offer lower dividend yields, usually around 1 to 3%, and they wait for the stock to grow its dividend distribution amounts over time. Some very common dividend growth stocks would include Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, and Procter & Gamble. These companies offer much lower dividend yields, but they've been able to up to this point grow their dividends usually on a yearly basis at least. The other type of dividend investing is usually referred to as income investing, which is pursuing stocks and ETFs that already offer high dividend yields and don't experience much long-term growth as the ones we just looked at. Income stocks and ETFs will offer investors dividend yields anywhere between 6 and 12%. Some popular examples of income stocks would include Ares Capital with a dividend yield of nearly 8%, New Residential Investment Corporation at over 9%, and then there's covered call exchange traded funds like QYLD, which offers a dividend yield of almost 12%. Now, as far as which investment strategy is best, it really depends on your own personal preference. Most younger people, like in their 20s and their 30s, are usually encouraged to pursue dividend growth investing, whereas if you're older, like in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, you'll primarily want to focus on income investing. But if you regularly watch my channel, you know that I have a much different opinion on picking a dividend investing strategy. If you're younger and you simply find that seeing large dividend distributions being deposited into your account really motivates you to save and invest more money, I'd actually encourage you to pursue income investing with a portion still being dedicated to growth. Don't let anyone tell you that focusing on income investing is wrong if that's what you like and it motivates you. While you will have to pay more in taxes if you do it in a non-retirement account, it can be easier to estimate how much in dividends you'll need in order to replace your income if you're trying to retire early off of passive income. Just make sure you diversify your stock portfolio, which is another really important step that helps reduce risk. Another really nice thing about being a dividend investor is whenever the stock market falls, it's actually good news for us, while it's bad news for growth investors. If you invest in solid, dependable companies, when their stock share price falls, it actually creates a great buying opportunity. When you contribute more or whenever you reinvest dividends, you'll actually be able to buy more shares of your favorite stocks because they'll be at a discount. And since you can pick up more shares, that means you'll receive more dividends and you'll be able to grow that snowball even faster. So remember, it's like Warren Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Once you've decided which strategy you want to pursue, the fourth step is to build your portfolio. If you're wondering where the best place to find dividend stocks is, I personally think YouTube is one of the best platforms out there. You can also do a Google search for dividend or income stocks and you'll get a whole host of articles from a bunch of different websites. If you find a stock you like, be sure to research not only the good things about it, but also the bad. As far as analyzing a dividend stock is concerned, you really should learn how to read the financial reports of a stock you're interested in. An entire master course could be made on this, so I can't really cover everything in one video, but make sure you research how to read an income statement, a balance sheet, and a statement of cash flows for a company. If you don't want to do that and want a more passive approach to dividend investing, I'd suggest investing in a diversified dividend ETF. My favorite ETF for whether you're entirely a dividend growth investor or an income investor wanting some growth in your portfolio is the one I showed at the beginning of this video, which is ticker symbol SCHD. It's well diversified and it's consistently grown in terms of its share price and its dividend distributions. If you're wondering how many stocks and ETFs you should hold in your portfolio, everyone has their own opinion and it depends on your investing strategy. But I personally think that more than 20 or 25 is probably too much, as monitoring the performance of this many companies is going to be pretty burdensome. I think aiming for at least 10 to 15 different stocks is a good number to aim for, but a little more wouldn't hurt. Once you've got your portfolio set up, if you want to grow your dividend income as quickly as possible, remember to reinvest all of your dividends unless you happen to have enough money invested already to live off of those dividend holdings. And that's pretty much going to wrap up today's video. I know I didn't go too in-depth into any one topic here, as I was hoping to provide a general overview of the entire process. My goal was to condense as much information as I could in less than 15 or 20 minutes. If you'd like to see more content, maybe revolving around one step in particular, feel free to leave a comment below, and if this video has provided you with any sort of benefit, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, and also feel free to subscribe if you want to see more aggressive dividend investing strategy videos. Alright everyone, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.